A lot of homebrew projects built for the original Nintendo DS require external files outside of the .nds ROM, and that includes the Quake DS port that I showed in a previous video. In the past, this meant if you were developing your own homebrew project or modifying someone else's and the project required external files, you had to upload the build to a flash cartridge and test on the hardware every time you made a change. But fortunately today we can use melonDS to emulate the FAT file system that many Nintendo DS flash cartridges use to read external files from microSD cards, and that's what we'll be covering in today's video. If you don't already have it, then go ahead and download melonDS for your operating system with the link in the description below. Here I've opened melonDS version 0.9.5 on the left, and I have Quake DS, the Wi-Fi version, which is the homebrew ROM that I'm trying to run on the emulator. Now, Quake DS requires this ID1 folder, which contains the game data in the pak0.pak file, as well as a config file, both of which need to be accessed by that .nds ROM for the game to run properly. So first I'll just try to run the ROM without connecting it to the ID1 folder, and you'll see what happens. So if I go to Open ROM and then I navigate to this NDS ROM, then I'll hit Open, and the ROM will start to run, but as you can see, in the game it says FAT init failed. And this is common for a lot of ports. Doom and Quake, they have the WAD file or the PAK file, and it's also true of some emulators that run on the DS, as well as just a lot of homebrew in general. So to fix this, I'm going to click on Config, and then I'm going to click on EMU Settings, Emulation Settings. Then I'm going to go to DLDI. I'm going to hit Enable DLDI, check that. And then I'm going to say Sync SD to Folder, and then I'm going to go to Browse. And in Browse, I'm going to navigate to the directory that contains my ID1 folder, which has the game data for this ROM. Once I'm there, I can just go to Open, and this will basically treat it as if that ID1 folder were in the root directory of a flash cartridge. So I'm going to press OK, and now I'm going to press OK again. This will reset the emulation, this time with access to the ID1 folder. And as you can see, this time it now runs correctly because it can access the game data and the config file. And that's really all there is to it. Now, there's actually a lot you can do with melonDS that you can't do on all other emulators. For example, on the screen right now, I've set up a Vulkan dedicated Quake server, and I've joined that server on melonDS using Quake DS, and I'm having a cross-play game between the Nintendo DS ROM playing on the emulator versus the Vulkan port of Quake. And you can of course do this on actual hardware against a PC, but it's nice to be able to test it on an emulator. But let me know in the comments if you'd like to learn more about using Wi-Fi enabled homebrew with melonDS like I'm doing here. Alright guys, I hope you learned something, and I'll see you in the next one.